In this video I'm showing how to remove the door panels on a 2016 Ford F-150 SuperCrew. I'll start with the panel on the rear driver's side door. I would suggest getting your hands on a set of these trim removal tools. I picked these up from an auto parts store. They're not very expensive and it's a safer way of working with plastics than using a screwdriver or something. You'll have to remove this plastic cover from the door handle. You should be able to pry around the edges with the trim removal tool and get it to pop off. Next there's a small plastic panel that you'll have to remove right underneath of that. Same thing though, just pry around the edges and it should come off. In total there are 6 screws that you have to remove. 2 of them are under the door handle, 2 of them are under the small panel, and the final 2 are at the very bottom of the door. I removed them all using a 7mm socket. I used a screwdriver here because I'm a chicken and I'm afraid to tear something up, but I've seen other videos online where folks have used a drill for this and it seemed like it worked out fine for them, so do whatever you're comfortable with. With all of the screws removed, you should be able to take the trim tool and pry around the edges of the door panel to get it to pop loose. Once the door panel is loose, you should be able to lift it up and over the weather stripping for the window and over the knob for the lock. There are a few cables you have to disconnect, so it helps to rest it in place here. The first cable you have to disconnect is for the door latch. I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see it better. But basically you just have to feel around for a small tab that you press down on, and then the cable should release. The cable for the power window button is also secured by a small tab, and at this point the door panel should be completely disconnected so that you can set it aside. Now I'll show how to remove the door panel on the front passenger side door. Similar to the rear door, you'll have to pry the cover for the handle off to access those 2 screws. There are also 2 more screws under a square panel. And then finally the 2 screws at the bottom of the door. And again, I just used a screwdriver here with a 7mm socket to remove all of these. One point where the front doors are different from the rear doors is you'll have to remove this piece of plastic at the pillar. And then remove the screw that's underneath of it. Then you should be able to take the trim tool and pry around the edges of the door panel to pop it loose. I put the window down here for recording purposes. You don't really have to do this to remove the door panel. And just as with the rear door, once the door panel has been popped loose, you should be able to lift it up and over the weather stripping and rest it in place. You'll have to disconnect the cable for the power window button, the cable for the power lock button, and then finally the cable for the door latch. And at this point the door panel should be free so that you can remove it from the truck. Hit like if this was helpful, and thanks for watching.